Welcome to Sinestra, the heroic-only boss of this phase, Tier 11. We start with 2 tanks, 2 healers, and the rest a mix of DPS. We have 2 positions in this fight. Where we want to do is have our hunter or mage reset the boss so we can get into position to maximize DPS uptime. This boss is not mechanically challenging, but the mechanics are quite unforgiving. The trickiest part of this encounter is positioning and the slicers. The slicers are 2 orbs that target a player and follow them for a certain while. Now, the beam between the orbs can be lethal to anyone standing in that. To show how we deal with that, I'm going to display the positioning tips for it. Position 1 is where we stack up in the right corner of the boss, and over here we'll see the Unholy DK and the Fire Mage get slicers, so they move out to the left of the group, staying away almost parallel to each other, and then loop back in, while the rest of the group moves off to the right, away from them. Sinestra is a 3-phase fight. In phase 1, she starts at 60% health, and you have to get it down to 30%. In this phase, she casts Breath, which as a tank you want to use AMS for and/or Mirror of Broken Images. And alternatively, she casts Slicers. Now, the Slicers is what we talked about before. What we want to keep note of here is that the orbs and the lines connecting to the player are non-lethal. However, the lines between the orbs are lethal. So we have people move away from them to the right, while the players with the orbs move off to the left and loop back in, as I showed you in the positioning before. Once we get Sinestra to 30%, which is about 2 breaths, phase 2 will begin. Now, as an off-tank, she spawns whelps that need to be picked up in phase 1 and just held. We can have some passive cleave on them, but we don't want to kill them just yet. The reason is that they spawn a pool of blue that, 1, if they die within that pool, respawns them, and 2, that the pools keep growing. And this is what leads us to position 2. Now in this clip you'll see my off-tank, our Feral Druid, pick up all the whelps and take him to position 2, which is diagonally across from position 1 in the far back of the corner. However, it is within the circle of protection that the NPC casts, which is really important here, which you can see spawning here. Now what we want to do here is once the whelps are in position, we can AoE them down. And the key thing to note as a tank is that they retain threat. So once they respawn because since they died in the goo, they will retain their threat onto the tank that they was currently tanking. This is really important for phase 3. Phase 2 is a check where Sinestra has a mana shield, sort of like the Lady Death Whisper. The more you damage it, the more it depletes. When the mana shield depletes, the eggs on either side of the room become vulnerable to attack, and that's how we start phase 2. We split DPS to go and kill the eggs, and we want to try and 1-phase it. You can 2-phase it, but it might get pretty dangerous for the tanks and healers at that point. And we split that into a melee and range group. As a tank, this phase is pretty simple. They have 2 ads that spawn, this one dragon here and another dragonkin ad. What I want to do here is pick up the dragon and face him away from the group, and I'm going to take him towards Sinestra. Since we're 1-phasing it, I know that Sinestra is going to be live again for phase 3. And you can see here that we've already pushed to phase 3. The key ability here, it has a frontal that is shadow damage, I believe, and you need to just face it away from the raid. On the off-tank in this point, we'll pick up the Dragonkin ad. Now, it casts a non-interruptible, or it can be interrupted cast, but it should not be interrupted by conventional means, i.e. stun interrupts. The way you want to interrupt this was by Gouge, Scattershot, Blind, and Death Grip. Anything that's a sort of a positioning or loss of control that's not a stun will work. The reason for that is that does a lot of damage. Eventually we can just 1-tank this phase and have the other tank just DPS Sinestra or the eggs, but this is how we do it to play it safe. Okay, now we're in phase 3. So since I have the Dragon on me and Sinestra, I pop IBF just because it's a little more damage. I'm looking to see for my off-tanks ad to see if I can interrupt the cast with Death Grip, as I explained to you earlier. The part about phase 3 is that it's a lot harder, so you want to make use of your defensives a little more liberally, but the healers and DPS and everyone gets a buff from the NPC before he dies called Essence of the Red. Now this buff increases mana per second by 5% and melee and spell haste by 100%, which is amazing for blood DKs because it's Death Strike. Holy smokes. Now this phase introduces the tank swap mechanic here. Whelps keep spawning and need to be killed. The way we do this is because due to the duration of the debuff, we have the off-tank pick up the whelps and take them out and kill them. and instantly run back to the group. Once that happens, because the puddles respawn the ads and they retain threat, the off-tank can just run back to the group and everyone else can cleave them down before the next set of ads spawns. Once the ads are dead, he runs back in, we cleave the ads, and he picks up the newest set of ads. It's important to keep in mind that over here that slicers do keep happening as well, so it's important to stay out of it. When the second set of whelps are dead and he runs back in, the off-tank is going to take the boss, and then I am going to take the whelps and repeat the same process. I'm going to gather all the new whelps while the range and melee DPS the old ones, which are still have should have threat on the off-tank. I'm going to nuke them down by myself in the side and run back in, and everyone's going to cleave the ads. Now, after Essence of the Red falls off from our group is when we pop Lust and kill the boss. This is because Essence of the Red does not stack with Heroism. Now, we had a lot of DPS here, so we may choose to pop Essence at the start of Phase 3 where there's some downtime without the Essence buff. But in our first kill, we popped it after. So you may want to gauge what your guild's DPS is like and make a call accordingly. That's the kill. I hope you like this kind of content, for especially the tanking POV. And big shout out to my off-tank Tui for giving the footage as well. If you like this kind of content, please sub, throw us a share and comment as well. It means a lot to us. And I have more boss guides coming up soon. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the video.
What are we actually going to go?
Do this slice.
I've got all buffs.
We're clapping cheeks, boys. Let's go.
Yeah, boys, well fucking done, man. What a kill that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
That is
avoid
retarded.
fucking slicers.